feel like hometown always gets overlooked when talking about chapters. Personally, when I played chapters 1 and 2, I remember really loving the hometown segments, and it upsets me that I almost never see anyone really take it into consideration when thinking back and ranking their previous chapters. It's not really thought about now in chapter 5 because of the whole festival, but it's interesting to me. There's a ton of theories regarding the places and people inside of hometown. Hell, I even made one. But what if we looked outside? After chapter 5, we have some new and interesting piece of information regarding what could be outside, and we'll try to formulate some kind of conclusion to this. But obviously that's not what the title of the video is, that's not why you're curious about what this theory is. But to understand the meaning of what the hell the police tape theory is, we first have to try and figure out what exactly is outside of hometown in the first place. As a Deltarune fan, I don't know what outside is, but thankfully Deltarune's hometown can maybe help me find the answer. This has been speculated for a while, and with the new knowledge that Chapter 5 brings, hopefully we have a better answer. Hometown is clearly not just the whole world, as on the Weather Channel during the ending of Chapter 2, there's clearly a whole country or some big landmass surrounding them. And while Tenna is known for doing reruns of Asgore's Cowboy Show, I highly doubt that out of everything, Tenna would find it most important to rerun outdated forecasts on the Weather Channel. So it's not like the land around them totally changed or anything. So what is out there? Well, in the Chapter 5 Weirder Out Lake sequence, as we're crossing the lake to a side that no one's seen before, as we move across the screen, we don't see any land, at least at the point where we got to. Rather, the colors of the lake begin to darken and become more blue as we go across. Obviously, we're also drowning in the meantime, and so this is clearly supposed to be not of breaking the boundaries of the game. This could be further proven with the whole breadcrumbs theory, and if you don't know what that is, I'll do a quick rundown, skip it this time if you already know. But basically, it's a forced interaction in the Weird Out for Sans to give you a piece of bread, which leaves breadcrumbs to the places you go and tracks your footsteps. And in the normal route, Asgore comments on crumbs being important when giving him the honey toast in the normal route. This is all realistically just a reference to the concept of the breadcrumbs glitch from Earthbound 1, which Toby is clearly inspired by in multiple ways and has stated many times, where you can basically glitch yourself out of bounds using breadcrumbs for teleporting to other places. So because of this, most people assume that everything that's outside of hometown is basically like an out-of-bounds type area where no one's meant to reach. But the only issue with that is the Weather Channel clearly showing other areas. This almost reminds me of something like the Truman Show, where everyone's trying to act like there's a whole other world out there when we're actually just trapped. But it just doesn't make any sense. I don't think it's like realistic or logical enough to think that every member of hometown is able to keep as big of a secret as this, but it also just contradicts a lot of the knowledge we know. The theory that hometown is a cult has kind of been saying this, but it just never seemed right to me. I mean, for one, we know that Susie has been moving places her entire life, meaning that there's other full civilizations out there, not just hometown. And there's also, of course, Azrael going to college, which there isn't one in hometown, so he had to go somewhere else far away. Asgore and Rudy also are confirmed to go to college, and they were supposedly college pals, so college isn't some new thing. So with all that said, I don't really think that outside of hometown is some far lands-like area, since people have traveled all over the world. Maybe to us as the soul it is like a type of out-of-bounds area, but not to them, not to the actual monsters inside of hometown. There's a full world out there. So back to the question, what is out there? I think that it makes more sense that hometown is rather just a very isolated area from any other town or piece of civilization. And I think there's a couple things to prove this. First, we have to look at the Shadow Mantle minigames. It's basically common knowledge by now that the last minigame dungeon thing represents hometown and its sub-areas. I mean, look at Root's theory, it's probably one of the most commonly accepted theories just of all time. But I don't want to look at the ending dungeon. Rather, I think we could be looking at the first one. In the first of the Shadow Mantle areas, you, like the other ones, get the sword, kill enemies, and try to find your way to the next piece of progression. But in the first one, you have to constantly break trees out of boundaries until you find the chest that contains the ice key. I think this is meant to represent the fact that the outside of the main area you're meant to be, aka hometown in the light world, it's just a large forest. One that if you go into, it's so large that you basically couldn't escape. This could also explain the whole story of Lost Where the Forest Would Grow, the children followed the pointed tail. Well, the pointed tail thing is a whole different story. The beginning part of Lost Where the Forest Would Grow would make sense, since the forest is so large to the point where once you go inside, it's hard to find your way out. Along with that, in Chapter 2, Noelle talks about a forest behind the graveyard. Now it's kind of weird because it's hard to identify what exactly behind means, as she could be either talking about it from behind the graveyards, or sorry, the gravestones, or on the other side of the bench, since that's the direction that the entrance faces. But assuming it's either direction, the forest clearly covers all the sides we can see, so it implies that it spreads upwards to the left, which is where the exit to the road to the hometown leads to, meaning a big forest would surround it. The weather map could also be showing this, as there's basically no rivers or anything on the big map, which could help you guide your way. It's just pure land. I assume that the yellow and green portions are both just normal grasslands, as it wouldn't make sense for the yellow to be a desert, especially since it's surrounded by greens on all sides, and we know that hometown has a normal climate of 4 seasons, so such a drastic change in climate would be kind of odd. I think the yellow is probably just there to separate areas, I assume. So with this information, I'm pretty much going to theorize that the road leading outside of hometown is just a long road that is surrounded by a large inescapable forest. This would also help explain why Azrael visiting is partially such a big deal, as if he was closer, then I think the visits would happen more regularly. However, why does the lake look weird as we go across it, and what's up with that whole thing? This one I don't really have a great answer for, as we really can't see what's on the other side of the lake through the perspective of the game. Going back to the weather channel, there's clearly a lot of land, so I feel like it would be odd to assume there's nothing or some farlands area on the other side of the lake, and it's probably just more forest or grasslands. So now we've identified what's probably outside of hometown, a big forest, and it's isolated from most other towns. So now we can actually focus on what this video is about, the theory that all spawns from one piece of tape, the beginning of the police tape theory. As we've just covered, hometown is a representation of a classic suburban town somewhere out there, with every road in hometown basically being a dead end, except for one. I guess 2 if you count the lake road, since technically you could cross the lake, but no, we're just gonna go to the one clear exit road. This one right here next to the police station. It's blocked by this police tape that you can't walk through, and there's some other police barriers behind it. No one in hometown really talks about it, even the police themselves, and especially Undyne. She's weirdly been kinda quiet after chapter 3. But anyways, this police tape acts as a barrier so you can't go past hometown. But something is really off about it. I mean, no one in hometown has mentioned it, and I feel like somebody would have to leave at some point. I get that hometown has everything you would basically need, and so you wouldn't really have to leave, except for college, but we'll get back to that later. But it's never like a thought in anyone's mind. Everyone just kind of ignores it as if it wasn't there. When interacting with the tape, in chapter 1, it just says Undyne's signature, battle cry, and in chapter 2, a second piece of tape goes over it and just says more exclamation points, just to emphasize it more. And in chapter 2, there's also the whole Alphys next to it, and the whole bike things, with her breaking her bike, and that Undyne thing happens. But it seems kind of unrelated to the tape. It doesn't really seem to mean anything in relation to the tape, thing, really. She's standing right next to it and doesn't even talk about it. It's still weird, really weird. In chapter 3, obviously you can't interact with the tape since, you're in Chris's house, so who really knows what it says? And in chapter 4, before and after Noelle's house, it just says yesterday's police tape, and after it rains later in the chapter, and in the end part, it talks about how it's wet. Finally, and weirdly enough, in chapter 5, it says the tape feels newer than yesterday, possibly because it got wet from the rain yesterday. So with how mysterious this blockade is, it's no wonder that I did some thinking about it, and I think I came to an interesting conclusion. The tape was put there specifically for us. To begin, this blockade is realistically not doing anything for anyone but us. From the mention already, it mentioned of how the 4 children of Des, Azrael, Chris, and Noelle explored the forest behind the graveyard, we can clearly say they aren't afraid of leaving hometown, even though the trees already create a sort of natural barrier for hometown. So if some teenagers are willing to explore an inescapable forest, then a normal monster can absolutely just walk past this barrier. I mean, the barriers themselves don't even cover the entire sidewalk, only the tape is an issue, which might possibly be the easiest thing ever to just go under or something detach it from the tree. At this point, the rest of the theory is not as concrete as what I just theorized, and some of it is speculatory, especially the later on parts. So here's now why I think this is here to block specifically us. Well, you could just say it's probably so Toby Fox didn't have to make more errors or whatever. This is Deltarune, okay? Everything matters. There's probably one random line in Chapter 1 that secretly foreshadows everything in Chapter 7, and we just don't know right now. So, anyways, with all that said, I think the tape is there because of Carol Holiday. Carol's relationship with the police is a really interesting one. While she isn't the chief of the police department, since that's Undyne, or was, Carol is still the town mayor. According to Alphys, when she's outside the police station, it's because of the mayor there isn't any crime. Makes me wonder if she needs the police or if they're just getting in her way. She clearly has some hold on the police in Hometown, as she is the one who also removed Asgore from the force while he was the police chief, since once he was removed, Undyne was promoted to the chief instead. The police in town also seem to not really be good at their job, and seem to take the job not too seriously most of the time, with this especially being true with, Napstablook. Undyne has said that it's boring due to the lack of crime, though she is immediately fully ready to throw hands with the night upon the first sight of seeing it, but she did let all of the criminals go loose without trying to stop them, so you can't really say she is the best cop. Because of the insane weakness of the police force, it makes sense that Carol could easily make them do small things when she wanted them to, and so she might have made them put up these barriers to stop us. Why us? Well, first we know that Carol knows about the soul. I mean, it's basically confirmed at this point with the big red U text that at this point is basically common knowledge. She's talking to us, the player of the soul. The heart-shaped pillows right next to her room. I mean, come on. Her knowing about Dark World since she went to the bunker, and there's also just other suspicious things among that. And this damn voice on the phone has been theorized for a while, but assuming that it is Carol, she literally name drops the soul to talk about how Chris needs it. Now, Carol's extent to the knowledge of what the crystal is still a little less known, and I don't think she really knows everything about it, because if she knew every small thing, I think she would really try stopping us from doing the weird route, since, it's her daughter. But from everything, that we know, from her name-dropping the soul, and in general, it shows that she has some knowledge of what we can do, and that's why I think she put the barriers in place to stop us from escaping Hometown. She knows we have some control of Chris, since she talks directly to us when only Chris is in the room, and she doesn't want us to run away. If we were to run away, it would directly impact her plans of whatever the hell is happening with the bunker, which we know she has about some plans or has some connection with due to her investigating it during Chapter 5, and Alphys saying that she's only seen Undyne and Carol at the bunker. I'm honestly surprised that I'm not seeing more discussion on what the hell the Chapter 5 dialogue means, because that could mean a lot. Especially for a fandom that literally theorizes over every line, one that says Carol is investigating the bunker. I feel like there's something going on there. But anyways, yeah, if we were to run away with Chris, then obviously she would no longer have Chris and the soul to steal fountains, or just enter Dark Worlds without worry. This is why we cannot go past the police blockade, but monsters presumably can, just so we cannot escape. It also does not make sense otherwise why the blockade would still be up during the festival. They knew in advance that Azrael was visiting from college, and probably someone else was, and so why would the one entrance road still be blocked? She knew that if we had the chance, we'd try to explore more, and possibly leave Hometown or even end up getting lost in the forest. Also, I would assume that Carol just doesn't tell the police force why she's putting up the tape in the first place, just to hide the fact that, the whole soul stuff even exists in the first place. But I still think there's more to this. Why is all this important? Why do we need to know about the specific blockade? Because by looking at the evidence, we're probably going to be able to go past it at some point. The third route of Deltarune is a very popular theory that at its ground level is just confirmed. The third route of Deltarune is just the aborted weird route, and the reason it's significant is because of the fact that you can keep the thorn ring. Using this, if you get the pure crystal, which is would assume that Sham will make after combining all the 5 shadow crystals, you can craft the twisted sword. There's a lot of theorizing regarding what the twisted sword is and what it means, and we're not going to go completely into that, but it's still important. A big part of the third route theory is that the Shadow Mantle board games actually represent the aborted weird route of obtaining the twisted sword and using it and killing others, rather than the representation of the full weird route. If this is true, then it would mean a lot for this theory. In the Shadow Mantle game, you have to constantly break new barriers and after leveling up to access new areas. Are you seeing what I'm getting at here? This is most likely foreshadowing for us using the sword or something of the sorts in the light world to try to break the police force barrier and access what's on the other side. There's also other things foreshadowing us going through some sort of blockade. First, in chapter 4, when Rousey doesn't want us to see his room, Susie runs through what is literally just a pink version of the police tape, possibly foreshadowing us coming through the actual police tape. This is just a side note, that probably isn't true, but the tape that Susie runs through is pink, and she's pink. And the tape that we could go through next to the police station is yellow, which Chris's skin tone in the light world is also yellow. Just something to think about, it's probably not true though. Secondly, and probably less impactful, is how in chapter 5, Rousey just walks through spikes, showing us that typical barriers aren't a problem. What we thought constantly confined us in chapter 1 can simply be walked past, eventually, after enough time passed. Thank you all for watching my second ever Deltarune theory. My first one completely blew up unexpectedly, and obviously I hope this one does well too, but we'll see how it goes. If this one also does do well, then I'll just hard shift into a full Deltarune channel, like I'll just never go back. And in my previous theory video, I also got some things incorrect, and the comments corrected me a lot, and so I just want to make it clear here that I know I probably missed something, and if you comment on a mistake I made, I'll just add it to my pinned comment and I'll just edit it with all the new information I find. Deltarune is such a big game now that there's a lot to take in, and even though I did a good amount of research, I know I probably missed something somewhere. But yeah, I also have a Discord server that we sometimes talk about Deltarune on and other things. Since the channel is not originally a Deltarune theorizing channel, so we talk about other things sometimes. But join if you want, thank you all for watching, subscribe if you want, see you all later, and toodles.